Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, time it.
Just remember here, class A is there. In class int id is variable. Int id or whatever it is, just something is there, and it extends a structure of class A and class B. Now, in string concurrent file, I would like to configure with the well being open and being closed. ID is equals to, we will write something. Class is equals to class B. I'm writing. And here there is a property tag. Assume that name is equals to something like something, anything. Let me say value is equals to value I'm passing here. So try to understand some generalization. What happens due to this? An object of class B will be created. That object will be referred with obj reference variable. And later, whenever property tag is identified, immediately setter method will be invoked. Set anything method will be invoked. Fine. To the set anything method, some value are going to assign. What is the type of value? As of now, don't bother about it. Some value is passing to set anything method. Makes sense. What happens immediately? Java compiler looks for set anything method from class B. Otherwise, I'll say string container tries to invoke set anything method from class B. Is there any set anything method here? No. If there is no set anything method in this class B, then string container looks for its parent here. Is there any set anything method in its parent class? They also didn't found. Then immediately there will be a exception raised, uh, being not found, etc. Initialization or otherwise. Some exception will be thrown here. Now, guys, observe the valid case is this set anything method should present in either child class B, reference the what it is here, some variable, okay, some logic, any logic here that you should know, you may or may not consider like this dot variable is equal to variable, that may or may not, okay, whatever the logic you can expect in this set anything method. So in this case, that set anything method will be invoked due to this property tag. Suppose it's not available in child class, but it's available in parent here. In this case also, this bean configuration validated. Valid configuration, you won't get any exception. Why I'm talking this scenario in the sense, setter methods are inherited from parent to child object. On this child object, you can string container calls parent class setter methods also, parent methods also. Fine. Try to have this knowledge here. And now I would like to show some scenario, nothing but one XML file here, which is already prepared. One more thing here, observe. While we are working with a simple Spring application, there we got only XSD called what? Spring-beans-4.0 XSD here, and remaining everything is not there. You need to focus. This context is not there, just beans is there, and a schema instance and a transaction is not there in that namespace here while we're working with the NetBeans. So what happened here, some new XSDs are there, like Spring transaction need to be started, context and AOP not required here. This if you delete this this XSD also, you won't get any problem because we are not going to write any AOP logics. String context is needed, transaction you must need transaction here. Anyhow, this XSD plays a major role. I'll share this document as it is. Observe, we had a class provided by Spring Framework in package called org.springframework.jdbc.datasource, and a class name is driver manager data source here. Just copy and come back to Google and try to search for it. I should choose all. From Spring API, Spring provided documentation we are seeing. Driver manager data source is a child of abstract driver based data source, something data source, and is a child of object. Implemented interfaces, there is data source here. Okay, let us see the methods which are available in this here. So there are constructors. Okay, methods, we need to focus on methods here. Only set driver class. That means to say how we can write a bean configuration for this driver manager data source, in the sense, try to apply your basic knowledge here. Obj any ds, class name is nothing but enter Spring fully qualified name, Spring provide fully qualified name. So class name, then what happens, Spring container loads this driver manager data source class from this package, and the object will be created for that, and the object will be referred with ds. Next, there are some properties here. What's the property name? Set driver class. So setter method is going to invoke. Makes sense. If you would like to invoke set anything, what's the parameter name it is? Anything. If you just specify anything, then Spring container looks for set anything method here. In this case, this parameter is not the instance variable or any other variable in the Java class. Spring container always looks for setter method based on the parameter or property name. We practically observe that. So method name is that set driver class name. So property name you should write as driver class name. Driver class name. Internally set driver class name method will be invoked here. At the same time, it's taking string parameter. Right? Sets the JDBC driver class name. So driver class name you should give here. Value is something like com dot mysql dot, and it is JDBC dot driver is driver class name. So what happens internally, object will be created for driver manager data source, and this driver class will be set to set driver class method. Done. Apart from this, is there any set URL and set username, set password methods here? Not there. But here methods inherit from data source dot abstract driver based data source class, nothing but in this class we have some more setter methods. They are nothing but set password, set URL, set username. I think these three methods is enough for you. Yes, now. So similarly, I'll write some more property tags. According to set password, URL, and username. Simply, here you can say set URL, na? Just URL. Set password, just say password. Set username, na? Just say username. I think n calculator. Na? That's it here. That means if you know the setter methods of a Java class, then that can be configured within a bean by calling setter methods with some inputs here. Here you should say URL, and here you should say username and password both. Root and that's it here. So that's in this way you can get a data source object. Here we need to write some URL here. MySQL URL you need to specify. Nothing but JDBC colon MySQL colon / local is there, no? That's all. So are you okay with this configurations here?
Yes.
So you understand this configuration in the sense you got some enough knowledge on Spring IOC discussions over there here. Basics. Good basics. Now observe. So first the data source object we gather. At the same time, makes sense, guys. Makes sense. Suppose here I choose date class object. Date. Then that date object should be created first. No. Configured in bean. Spring application context file here. Like bean id is equals to something d, class is equals to java dot util dot date closing tag bean here because object is created now. That's it. Now this d I should inject here with the tag what? Ref tag, because there's a date class object. Other class object except string should be injected with the ref tag set. Then I will say t. Then what happens here? So this object will be passed as the reference for this set anything method. Finally, the given date class object will be injected here. That's what. And now that means some setter method is expecting some other type as object here, object as reference here. Okay. Now come back to this XML code. Finally, we got prepared data source here. And here is Spring providing some session factory type class. Now this is the package and this is class name. Finally, let me look for it here. Copy this. You will see. 4.x. Now let me choose this. Local session factory is a Java class here. There is a child of Hibernate exception translator, whatever it is, but finally that is a child of Java.language object. That means to say every Java class is the child of Java.language object here. In any framework again. In any, whether you created or I created or else somebody third party generated some frameworks, a Java class is always child of Java.language object. Now observe some implemented interfaces here where something session factory is there. Okay, somehow that become the child of what? Session factory. Session factory is the interface from where? Is a class or interface from org.hibernate here. But we know that session factory is a interface. Makes sense. While we are working with Hibernate, I told you session factory is interface from Hibernate package here. Done. Somehow local session factory bean is a child class for session factory. Right? Factory bean that creates a Hibernate session factory object. That's what here guys, if you got session factory object, remaining story, everything it looks like same as Hibernate application. Because session factory, from session factory you can get session now. Once you get session, you can call the all methods of session interface like save, update, delete, and get kind of thing. Create criteria, create query, kind of methods here. Fine. And now let us look for setter methods. Set annotated classes. This is useful here. And the set to data source method is there. So method name set to data source. Then what's the property name here? Data source or not? Yes or no guys? Property name becomes data source.
Yes.
What's the parameter we need to pass? Data source interface, otherwise that data source object should be passed here. ఇక్కడ ఇది ఇంటర్ఫేస్ కాబట్టి what we need to do, any of its child class object you can pass. నేను ఏం చేస్తానంటే property data source అని రాస్తా for this class here. For this class I am going to set some bean information. ఇదంతా ఒక క్లాస్ లేదు. Observe one more bean. Here id is equals to anything, your session factory, whatever it is here, because we are going to take the class as Spring framework or ORM Hibernate 4 local session bean local session factory bean. So for this class, object will be instantiated and referred with factory reference variable here. And now property. Property name is, look for setter method, set data source. No, property name is data source. Here the spec data source. Data source object you need to pass here. So other type of object in the sense ref type. You need to pass any child class of data source interface. You need to pass here. Driver manager data source is one of the child class now. The DS I am going to pass as reference. That's it. So set data source method is invoked here. Whenever set data source method is invoked, immediately set the data source to be used by session factory. అంటే ఏ డేటా సోర్స్ ని యూజ్ చేయాలో సెషన్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ సెట్ చేస్తుందండి. ఏ డేటా సోర్స్ అనేది ఏంటంటే ఇట్ టాక్స్ అబౌట్ what type of database is going to use, for what type of database software connection should be established internally. All these things will be happen in this set data source method only. All right, next method, next thing. And generally in Hibernate application, we used to create what? Annotated classes. So annotated classes might be many things here. So how to set annotated classes in the sense, with the help of set annotated classes, number of classes you can give as properties types here. So method name is set annotated classes, then property name is what? Annotated classes you can use. As I said here, property name is annotated classes, property closed here. So any number of classes that you can provide as list content. Fine. Next, Hibernate properties here. Nothing but Hibernate property is the property name in the sense what? Internally that is having the method name as set Hibernate properties. Look for it. So here it is not there. If it is not there in this interface in the sense, that might be inherited method here. Look for, okay, here itself and there that is there. Set Hibernate properties file here. Properties is the parameter in the sense what? Prop stack will be used internally to inject that. Okay, that's what I done here. All properties, all required properties I am going to assign. Was that properties, prop stack, some prop, direct name, show underscore SQL, ddl.auto update. I hope you know the difference between create and update. And here if it is true, then Hibernate fired SQL queries will be displayed here. And direct name. Finally, this is bean session factory. Or finally, once this bean configuration is done successfully, then it returns session factory object here. Okay, while configuring the session factory object, data source is passed, and whatever the annotated classes which are there in your application, that will be identified, and all Hibernate properties also got fired. That's what. So as of now, here we are ready with what? Data source and as well as session factory object here. So here onwards our story begins. These two cases must be placed in this XML file. Okay, let's start the coding structure. Now you are trying to work with this Hibernate application. What we need here? Very first one is bean class, otherwise annotated in class. In class simply. Next, CFG.xml file. Next, client file. These are the three minimum things you need to have here, because HBM.xml file is managed with annotated class. That's what. When it comes to Spring, in Spring also we need some bean class here. App dot some application context dot XML file. Also we need to create. So these are in Spring. Here is in Hibernate. Observe. Finally, by combining all these things, bean and here annotated bean, I'll combine it, right. So finally you will get annotated bean. Next, the cfg.xml file. Here, general cfg.xml file contains what are the annotated classes are there in your Hibernate application plus some database related information. Okay, the database related information already we wrote in this app.xml file, application context.xml file here, like with the help of data source, and the data source is already configured with the session factory. In session factory again we are writing what annotated classes also, and hybrid properties also there, right. That's why I'll take app.xml file. So client, in the sense both are same here, anything client files, but in this client file we will write Spring Framework logics only. So finally, a annotated class, nothing that too Hibernate provided. No, I should not say Hibernate provided here. I should say JPA, Java Persistent APA provided annotated classes. I should write app.xml file and a client file. This is the thing. Done. Apart from this, here we are going to perform some database related operations, right? Some DAO. So DAO class we need, as we seen student DAO, IMPL, interface and child class. In that student DAO, what we did, we specify some services, save student, get all students, and get some ID, delete, update, search operations we used to perform some crude operations we perform over there. Similarly, I'm going to keep something DAO interface and a DAO IMPL class also I'm going to specify. If possible, some exceptions also will integrate over there. So guys, here is one application already prepared here, some data source, session factory up to here, okay, and later we'll come back to the here later. Spin configuration, nothing but this is our user defined class here. This user defined class is having session factory object as instance available. As we seen, just try to remember we already did this kind of logics while you're working with JDBC logics integrating with Hibernate. Before integrating with the Hibernate, what we did here, we created a connection object as instance variable. Fine, and that for to inject that connection object, we have here we are going to write some setter method. Next, session factory. Instead of collection, we used to choose session factory object here. To inject that, we need to keep something newly set session factory method. Get it right. Okay, come on. Let me show everything from bean customer.java file here. And here DAO customer DAO.java customer DAO IAMP here. This is a client file. I did not find exception. It's a predefined exception here. We already prepared it now somewhere. Just I copied and placed it here. And ORM already open. Just finally app.java file. Apart from all these things, this is a Maven project. Maven project in the sense it will get such kind of structure here. I hope you we already taught about how to create Maven project in where Hibernate applications here. Okay. So these are the Maven dependencies added. All these Maven dependencies will be configured in this pom.xml file. This pom.xml file also open. Just observe what are the dependencies which I added here. JUnit by default comes here. Spring Core, Spring JDBC. I think Spring JDBC is not required because I'm not going to access JDBC classes here. Spring JDBCs. Spring Context, yes, because application context is available in this context package. MySQL connector.jar file is needed here. Spring ORM framework, because under this only local session factory is available. Hibernate libraries here. Why Hibernate libraries? In the sense, I'm going to access session factory now. I'm going to deal with session factory of type Hibernate provided interface. Here's the string, right? Yeah, these are the dependencies here which I added here. Okay, before coming to this, let us start our discussion from here. Class name customer. So table name is going to create customer information. I think I would like to see the database table name eg7_30. Let me verify whether this eg_7_30 database is existed or not. In my PC. So I'll search for SQL here. Let us start in background. Back to customer.java. Right? Here ID, name and address. Just 3 private variables, I think so. There is setters and getters at the end, toString method. Fine. Customer DAO.java file here. Save, get customer, get all customers. List collection will be written here. Update and is exist. Some operations. Is exist nothing but whether it is existed or not. If exists, true, otherwise false. Customer DUI ampere. Here let us spend some time. DUI ampere implements DAO. It's a private variable, session factory. And it's an instance variable here. To inject this instance variable, I wrote set session factory. So set factory, I think so. Set factory is the method. We take session factory object, and finally this dot factory is called factory. Once it is done, session factory injected message displayed here. Okay. And by default, guys, just remember, while we are working with Hibernate, we wrote the session factory object creation in Hibernate utils class. Can you remember that?
Yes.
So that util class implemented to provide only one object, only one factory objects. Nothing but we used to write singleton design pattern. We used to apply singleton design pattern, so that what happens in this entire application, only one factory object will be used here. But in this case, in this application, we didn't written any singleton logics. The beauty of a Spring framework is, I think here no, yeah. By default, the bean config, whatever you configure it in bean, by default that provides singleton design pattern functionality here. Only one object will be created in this entire application. Spring gives only one object. By default, it is scope is singleton here. Okay, that's what. Minute, it's loading. Scope attribute is there here, right? By default, the scope of this bean typically singleton. Internally, if it is not using, then it takes a singleton here. Singleton. Okay. So if you don't want to be singleton, then you need to choose a prototype. Prototype here. So independently, what happens here, for every call, a new bean object will be created and that object will be returned. But most of the cases, singleton is recommended to use. That's it. Back to the point. Observe. Customer DAO IMPL is the class name here. How to configure this DAO IMPL in string XML file? In the sense, we know that bean some object and this class name along with the package name, and set method is there, set factory. So set factory is the method, the property name is what here, factory. Such a way I configured here. Just observe. Cust DAO is reference variable, it's object creation, property factory. Reference is taken from where? This is because it's taking the parameter of what, session factory here. Then a reference variable we are passing here. So observe, our DAO class is dependent on session factory. Session factory dependent on data source. All dependent objects will be injected internally. That means what you say, customer DAO object మీకు కావాలి అంటే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ కావాలి ప్లస్ ఈ ప్రాపర్టీ ఇంజెక్ట్ చేయాలంటే what you need to do, సెషన్ ఫ్యాక్టరీకి ఈ క్లాస్కి లోకల్ సెషన్ ఫ్యాక్టరీ బీన్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ అవ్వాలి. ఆఫ్టర్ క్రియేటింగ్ దట్ ఆల్ ప్రాపర్టీస్ ఇన్వోక్డ్ హియర్. టు ఇంజెక్ట్ this ప్రాపర్టీ ఫస్ట్ డేటా సోర్స్ క్లాస్కి ఆబ్జెక్ట్ క్రియేట్ అవ్వాలి. ఇక్కడ డ్రైవర్ మెయిన్ అనేది డేటా సోర్స్ క్లాస్ అని, రైట్. ఆల్ configurations, all wiring configuration will be done by Spring Framework internally due to this bean initialization or bean implementations. Back to DOIM here. So once setter method invoke, what happens? Factory is ready. Once factory is ready, remaining everything is same here. Hibernate logics, session started, transaction started, save customer, the given input, commit, record inserted, close it. Similarly, get customer ID is identified now. Then I will call get method or load method here. So that what happens, that particular record will be retrieved from particular Java class and stored in C. If C is not null, return C. Otherwise, throw new ID not found exceptions. ID not found. Next, same in get method. Session opened. Session dot create criteria. Customer dot class dot list method call directly returning that list. Fine. I think this is not required. ID not found exception is throwing error. Okay, import ID not found exception. Import statement missed. Remove unused import. I think we are importing, right? Is this ID not found exception not visible? Delete it, save it, throw new ID not found exception. Control Shift O. I think it's not recognizing that. I do one thing. Let me create a new package. .exp2. In this package, I am going to create a class. Oh, sorry, not a rendition. Class. The runtime exception or exception, anything you can choose. Finish. So it is. Edit it. And come here. We need to import it. So import from here. Import. Yeah, now it is working fine here. The reason behind it is from somewhere that might be imported. Oh, I think so. While I'm taking this package, I might be load from other project here. The other project might be disturbed, or else that project might be deleted from my PC. That's the reason. Okay, anyhow, back to the point. I think I need to convert into downcast and returning back here. Not a problem. Fine. Get method returns all customer list in the form of list collection. And update method. So based on ID, change this address here. Anything. So first, what you need to do, get customer ID. Already guest customer method is there. If ID is exists, that returns customer object now. So by using setter method, set address, finally session opened, transaction opened, session.update of C. And then what happens, that newly added object data will be updated in this session, nothing but on that particular database table. Finally, come here and is exit here. Get customer method only I'm calling by passing this ID. If this is not null, return true, else return false. I think the only remaining part is this client.java file. String ORM.xml file. XML file will be loaded here. Once this is loaded, immediately what happens here, nothing but data source session factory and our customer DAO IMPL session factory inject object will be injected here. I'll do one thing. Let me comment this entire logic here. Commented, save it. Just this line, one line I'm going to run. Right click, run as Java application. So due to line number 19, what happened? Applications context object is ready and it loads that string ORM.xml file. And in the string ORM.xml file at the end, what happened? Set factory method invoked here. In that set factory method in this IMPL class, once it is done successfully, I print set session factory injected message. Once it is ready, you can do all operations here. DAO context.getBin of customer DAO IMPL. Instead of IMPL, I can say what? DAO itself. Makes sense. Yesterday we wrote I and sample types. Get then what happens here? Enter list of data will be returned. So here, let me verify whether it is the database is existed or not. Whether the table existed or not, but database should be present here. Underscore that I think so this is available. Customer DAO customer underscore info 2. All 4 they are there. Right? Come here. I think save method is save logics are commented here. So all records will be displayed due to for each loop, and record 1 will be gathered and the record 1 will be displayed. Next DAO is exist 40. For not exist, no, then you will get false here. Run this. Observe, enter data we got, customer 1 data we got. Next select customer ID. Okay. Error where is exist method here. In is exist method and that to get customer method. Yes. In line number 38 we got exception. Okay. So since we are throwing exception, it's not handled, right? Yeah. So what I should do here, I should keep the logics within try and catch. Not only here, just customer, if I say 10, there also you will get exception here because this is ID 10 is not exist. Displayed exception where exactly in line number 38. So what I should do? Observe, while I'm calling this get customer method, it is not showing me is there any chance to throw exception or not. So since JVM is not suggesting me that there is a chance of throwing exception if customer ID not found, that's why I didn't kept in within try and catch blocks here. Right? JVM is not suggesting me because that ID not found exception is unchecked exception. If it is a checked exception, suppose if it is checked exception, then I will alert. Okay, where is that? Yeah, here is exception now. So throw, this method should declare with throws id not found exception. Save it. Remove exceptions from okay. The thing is that in interface there is a method now that get customer method is not declared with the throws declaration here. That is they are suggesting. Parent class will throw it like that. That means the parent is not throwing. Then why are you throwing here? It's asking you. Add in there also added. So it should be resolved. Again, this part you should call within try and catch. Again, guys, observe. Did you observe that everything is checking? Wherever you calling at customer method, everywhere you should keep try and catch. You must keep try and catch here. Yes, I will say here C. Yeah. I'll suggest C is equals to null. I opened. I closed. And a catch block. Kept this within this exception. Now here system.error.println e. That's it. And here also I need to do some changes here. C is equals to null and here I'll keep it in C is equals to try block. Try block. Catch block. Yes, are you able to grasp the things what I'm doing here?
Yeah, we're trying to.
Come on, simply accept my logic here. Just printing it. Here just what happens, initially C value is null. In try block, if they execute perfectly, then C value becomes what? Not null here. It is checking. If there is any exception, then immediately the exception will be thrown. Then what is the case of returning false here? Makes sense. Like C itself I will return. If C is not null, return true. I think it's not the way of writing. Observe. If ID exists, still there is error. Try block. Try block itself, this is expecting to return something. Guys, observe. If C is not null, return true. There's a try block logics here. If anything went wrong in try block, the exception message will be displayed. At the same time, it returns false. You will get false output. Fine. Come back to app.java file. Since you're calling at customer, here you must add it. You must handle it here within try and catch. Try opened, try closed, catch block. I did not found exception. It is e dot. I think better to display system.println e. Fine. That's it. Run this case. All data is displayed. And while you are trying to access customer 10 data, it's saying no customer found for ID 10. Add not exceptions. And next, while you're trying to perform such operation also, no customer data found for 40. And at the same time, it is returning false for you. Done, guys. Not only exception, but also it is returning the value false. And next, finally, there is one more operation here, save operations. I'll remove from here and I'll place before of list collection. Already 4 ID is there, 5th ID, customer 4, customer 5, address 5. And once it's performed successfully, you will get what? Notification or acknowledgement data inserted. Such a way we implement logics, no? Record inserted message will be displayed, just displayed. Observe, customer 5 is inserted at the same time insert query fired is available here, and remaining things 10 and 40 we gave now. So I'll say here it is 4 something, it is like 5th record existed or not. I think I can comment this save operations. If I didn't comment this, then I will get exception bit key. Fourth customer and his. This is what the case here. And guys, I will share this document, nothing but this one, not document here. The entire project I will try to share. And you will get an in Skype chat here. You can download the document and you can start practice.
Sure. Sure.
Tomorrow we'll focus on Springboard. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Abhi.